All right, everybody. Welcome today to the jam session. Looks like we got a couple people on, which is great. I would like you all to check out this nice little thing that I have put here for you so that you can always remember who I am and what I do. I'm learning how this Hangouts thing works as we go. Now, one thing that I want to point out about today's jam session is that I am leaving for Australia in about an hour. I actually need to be out the door in an hour. So we're going to kind of skip through the pleasantries, the starting stuff. We're not going to do any Russian stuff today. I'm just going to go show you a couple of things and then just take questions. So we'll let the questions come quick. Let's fire them off, and then we'll go quick. Anybody who happens to jump on this jam session late and I'm done with it, I apologize. I really don't want to miss my flight. I think that I'm going to try and do a jam session next week, but you'll just have to be aware that noon Pacific is like 3 in the morning in Australia, so we may have to work out a time change or something like that. But I'll let you know exactly what we're going to do about that. So let's just go jump in and talk about what we wanted to talk about today. In fact, let me just kind of explain something to you while we wait for more people to come, and maybe we can get some questions out. Had a good conversation with our developer the other day, and a couple of things came up. First, I wanted to extend our apologies and if we need any support to any of the people who had video issues. I know there were a couple of people who kind of got the brunt of it because they were the ones who discovered it. And then, luckily, thanks to those people, the rest of you that may have had issues were notified. We were able to send that out so everyone could know about that. That, again, is not an issue that we had any control over. YouTube changed the way that their API works in terms of security, and there's some other things there. But we were not aware of that. They just sort of changed it, and we couldn't do anything about it. So the second thing we talked about is a really cool use for the SMS feature. We've talked, and 6th Division talks a lot when they do implementations with people, but I've talked a lot about setting up different sort of reminders or checks and balances for when things may go wrong in a system. And normally what I do is I just have a tag applied. It's a red flag tag, if you will, that will then show up on somebody's dashboard, so you know, oh, hey, there's something needs to be taken care of here. But a great thing you could also do is implement text messaging for internal notification. So like when someone buys a high-end product, text message gets sent so that the owner can reach out to that person immediately. Or whenever somebody's been in a sales stage for too long, maybe a text message gets sent out just to make it more immediate and more real time. So that's something that you might want to take a look at and jump in and see if you can use that. Text messaging is a great feature to use, and I think that could help out a lot. Okay, I'm just going to flip and start answering questions now. This question's from Philip. By the way, I apologize. I still haven't figured out how to get people into the Hangout so they can actually talk. So at some point we'll figure it out, but not quite yet. What's the proper way to reapply a looping campaign? Birthday campaign fired by applying a tag. This is a great question. Phil, this is a great question. It's actually just a straight-up Infusionsoft question. Has not very much to do with plus this, but because I like you, I'll go ahead and answer it anyway. So let's turn on my screen here. Okay. Oh my goodness, I'm into infinity. Okay, I just wanted to watch that happen. Set up my Firefox startup while this thing keeps on going into infinity. All right. Come on. What just happened? I just had 3 things start up. Okay. Let's close out of these. And this. Let's go to oh, is that? Check it out. That's me. All right. So we're going to check this out. So everything seems to be running really slow right now, which I don't quite get. Let me just check to make sure that you can see me just fine. All right. So inside the campaign, I'm going to go and show you a couple of campaigns that I have set up for this that will do this exact thing. So let's come in here. Scroll down. find one. I think this one will work. If not, I know I have one in the Plus This app, the one that I use for the reminders for these jam sessions, so we can always use that. Okay, this is perfect. Okay, so this is the demo. This is a campaign that I created just to kind of show what happens. So first of all, you've got two sequences with a goal on either side. Okay, this sequence right here in the middle on the top will contain the actual content you want to send, and then this sequence down below, it has the only function that it serves is to restart the whole process. So what happens is the tags that you're going to use to start and stop all these pieces. The tag for the start content in the upper left is the same as the tag for the start content in the lower right. Okay, so as soon as this tag is applied, it's going to start this up here. And the tag for the start restarter on the upper right is the same as the tag for the start restarter on the lower left. Okay, and all we're doing is starting and stopping these sequences. And inside this restarter sequence, we're removing, oh, I guess I don't even need to come in here. We're removing all the tags, both the start and the stop tags. And then waiting a certain amount of time, however long it is, and then applying the start tag again, which then kicks the whole thing off. So we need to start here, get dumped into the actual content. Once the content's done, we apply the start restarter tag, which starts us down here. Now we have both tags applied. So in order for us to be able to apply the tag again and stop everything, we have to remove both tags, and then we apply the last one after we wait as long as we need to, and then it kicks it back to the beginning. Okay? So that is the answer to that question. That should handle that. And we'll just hang out here and watch this thing fall into infinity again for a second, because that's fun. So hopefully that helps. I think that's good. Okay, so next question. Emmett's got a good question. Oh, this is a great question, Emmett. Asking about levels. So we have a 5 feature level, and then we have a 25 feature level. His question is, can we get something in the middle? The answer is right now no. We have 4 levels. 3 levels, 4 levels. We have the $5 or $5. Wouldn't you love that? We have the 5 features at $37 a month. We have 25 at $59 a month. We have 100 at $100 a month, and then unlimited at $200. So when you make that jump, now if we can get enough people that would be interested in something like that, that's something we can definitely take back to the team and talk about as a mid-level upgrade. I think it would be a good idea. I don't make those decisions, so that's a great thing to bring up, and I'll talk about it to our team and see if that's something we could that they could get behind going for. Personally, when it comes to implementation, you have to set up. So this is the idea, right? The idea behind the 5 is you have to set up 5 before you can set up 25, and again, you have to set up 10 before you can set up 25. So that seems like another logical step to move us forward in that direction. So. It'll kind of depend on the pricing, how it's going to work, and whether it makes sense for our numbers, and moving forward that way. So I'll put a word in about it and see what comes up. Great. Okay, so we don't have any other questions that have come through, and let's actually. I wonder if I could go. Let me go pull up Plus This over here. I guess I can turn my screen on. See if I can kill some time to get another question here, and then we'll just call it a day. I'm not planning on dragging this out too long, because again, I have to get out of here. So again, some of the new features, well, the newer features that you may or may not have heard about. We have a new proper case field feature, which basically takes the data in a field and changes it so the first letter of each word is capitalized. That's all that it does. So it works great for first names, for last names. It is going to cause problems if you have names like Mackenzie or anything like that where it has 2 capitals in it, because all it's going to do is capitalize the first letter and then lowercase the rest of them. So that's just something to keep in mind and move forward that way. And then also one thing that I'll keep pointing out, well, actually a couple of things. This will be good. A couple of things I want to point out. First of all, the updater is a great tool that will allow you just to run features from inside Plus This and not have to use Infusionsoft. So make use of that. And also inside the GoToWebinar integration, I wanted to point something out because I get this isn't anybody's fault, but I get a lot of questions about people not being registered or different things like that. A couple of things. When you're configuring your webinar in GoToWebinar, you can only have the first name, last name, and email address checked as the required fields from there. One way you can check to see if that's set up is if you go to the field mapping, you can see all the fields that are required will show up here in this little layout here thing. So if you click on show field mapping and anything more than first name, last name, and email are selected or show up here, then you got a problem. You got to go check that out. And then the other thing to keep in mind is when you register somebody for the webinar, it usually takes a couple of seconds before Plusthis has a chance to put the join link back into Infusionsoft. And so for the most part, I would recommend putting a delay timer after the registration action before you send out their welcome email. If you want to send it from Infusionsoft. What you could also do is just send out the initial confirmation email from GoToWebinar and then wait and then just send the final reminder emails from Infusionsoft. You could do it that way. That would be fine. But that's what I would do. That's what I would do there. So, all right, we got another question. Aaron's got a question. Can I use adding function to start or stop a sequence? That's a good question. I'm sure there would be a way, if I was to think about it, there's a way you could use the adding and the subtracting to start or stop a sequence, but it would not by itself. So you can't just add and then start a sequence off of that. The sequence actually has to be started based on something else. And so maybe what you could do is the thing that triggers the add or subtract, what you could do is you get whatever triggers the addition could also trigger to look to see how many what the number is, and then once it reaches a certain number, then it could funnel into another campaign or another sequence, which would then kick off the third sequence, the one that you're waiting for. So just the adding itself isn't going to allow you to do that, but if you use that function in conjunction with a tag goal or something else like that, then that should work. Oh, here we go. So the question is, can I have a contest where the first 10 people win? The only way to do that would be to set up one contact record that would count for that would be like the record that represents like the contest. It would just be a test contact record, and then you would use the counting feature. You'd have to run that feature on that contact record for everybody that signs up, which you can do by using the let me turn on my screen. You can use the run an action set feature. Basically, the action set would kick off the Plusthis feature that does the addition, and because what happens is inside, I can just jump into any one of these. Inside the HTTP post, you can put whatever contact ID you want in there. So what I would do is just create that custom contact record, and then just hard code the contact ID of that contact record. Right. So if I get in here, the URL you pull out of Plusthis goes here, and then you could just hard code the contact record like this, and then every time you go through here, it would kick off. You would basically set up the run an action set feature, and you would run it on that contact record, and then their action set would be to do the addition. And so then maybe when it gets to 10, then you would fire off an email or text message to somebody saying, hey, cut off the registration because the first 10 have already registered, or something like that. There's kind of a disconnect because Infusionsoft isn't set up to handle like group registrations and things like that, where like you've got a bunch of people that are signing up for one thing, and you need information about the group of people that are signing up to be stored somewhere, because the only place we can store information is on the individual contact record. So hopefully that helps. But yeah. All right, next question. If I delete a calculation feature to use other features and I want to bring it back for a future calculation, will this cancel the HTTP post URL that was put in a sequence? If you remove a feature from your Plusthis account, it is removed and gone. If you go back to, if you add it again or add a new feature, then it creates a whole new URL. So you'd have to go replace everything. However, for some calculation stuff, well, yeah, that's the short answer to that question. If you remove a feature, delete a feature, and then well, if you delete it, then you're going to have to. It's gone. That particular URL is no longer useful. And then if you add it again, then it's going to be a totally different URL. Because each feature, this is actually another good conceptual point for people to understand. Each individual feature for everybody has its own unique URL. The URL, like to Emmett's features, are unique. They're different from Philip's or from John's or Joe's or whoever's else. Okay, so every time you set up a new one, it creates a unique URL, which means if you get rid of one, then when you set up a new one, it's going to have a new unique URL, which you're going to have to then go and replace in all the different places. So, so that's something to keep in mind. What you could also do, though, to avoid having to mess with that, is do your calculations. Depending on what types of calculations you're doing, you could do your calculations using the updater instead of using just pieces in the campaign. So just at certain points, maybe during the week, you go and run your calculations, because then you can get rid of it, and then you can add it again and not have to worry about the URLs in Infusionsoft. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, well, this has been a good, quick little jam session. I've only been on for about 15 minutes, but it looks like we're out of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. Just remember, everybody, bring questions. Well, big thing. For over the next week and over the next couple of weeks, and actually for the duration of when you're using Plus This, I would recommend that you schedule 15 to 20 minutes every day to just mess around with Plus This features. Just playtime. You call it, in fact, put it on your calendar and call it Plus This playtime. And the goal of the playtime is to come up with questions that you can bring to the jam session and just have a list. The more questions, the better. I would much rather stay on these. Obviously, not today is an exception, but I would much rather stay on the jam session for an hour and a half and answer a bunch of really, really good questions than always only spend 10 or 15 minutes, because not only does it help me to know really well how you guys are using Plus This, but it also helps all of you to get questions answered that maybe you wouldn't even know to ask. Do that. Spend some time. Come up with a list of questions. If you have immediate, urgent issues, send me a ticket, and I'll get on it. Like I said, I'm going to be in Australia next week, so the timing might be a little bit off. I may not respond on your time. It might be 2:30 in the morning when I respond, but I should be able to get back to you on that. So thanks everybody for coming today, and we will see you potentially next week.